Give you a little studs and duds from the Dolphins game. This is from Dolphins Wire in USA Today. Studs and duds. Who do you think is the number one stud? They don't rank them, but the leading stud from yesterday's Dolphins game would be
Jalen Ramsey.
Bingo.
Yeah, it is Jalen Ramsey. They write Miami's top cornerback has come back from a meniscus injury and played like an all-pro. In this contest, he was targeted 7 times, allowing 2 receptions for 23 yards while recording 2 interceptions and passes defensed. He has been nothing short of incredible. He really has been. I was saying to Crowder at the beginning of the show, Josh, like you wonder that Buffalo game where Kader Kohu was just kind of left by himself. If you had Ramsey there and X-Back there, like maybe a different outcome.
It changes everything for everybody, not only in the secondary, but just the entire defense. I mean, the 3 interceptions he's had, it's not like they're targeting him and he's in a good spot. He's moving across the field, jumping in front of something. Like the athleticism that he's put on display on his 3 interceptions has been phenomenal. And he just covers for so much, literally. He's the perfect player for this defense, and obviously he's made them so much better.
His aggression and he undercut a Devontae Adams crosser and made O'Connell know he couldn't do it. He kind of threw it out of bounds. He undercuts everything. He's not trying to cover the guy. He's trying to intercept the ball. That's what he is doing. That's what great corners do.
I think about this defense has had so much trouble this season creating turnovers until Jalen Ramsey arrived, and that's an important part of it.
We go to duds. I just mentioned this. Special teams. Kicker Jason Sanders hasn't been asked to do much this season, but in this game, he was asked to attempt 3 field goals. He was 2 for 3 on his attempts and 1 for 2 on kicks from 50-plus yards. We know 50-plus yards been a problem for him. This continues to be an issue, but Miami seems to trust him. Punter Jake Bailey was asked to flip the field 3 times, and while he did a great job with 2 of the attempts, the other gave the ball to Las Vegas around midfield. In these games, where one mistake can cost the game, special teams coordinator Danny Crossman's unit could have done just that. It is important, and there is a time where you kind of feel like this may come back to bite you at some point during the season.
I've watched Little Chan punt the ball 30 yards.
It was a bad punt.
That was ridiculous, especially in that time, in that situation in the game. If the Raiders had any kind of offense, like that was a terrible situation. So you take that and say, hey, this is the Cowboy game or the Ravens game or the Bills game when they really matter. The last 2 games of the season, we got to clean that up.
That's kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, though. It's like these errors and the things that hurt them are things that they do themselves.
Right.
And that's the thing that, when people say, oh, they've been figured out and that's why they don't look as sharp. No, they're hurting themselves and making their own mistakes. That's not to say that's not a huge issue, because it can be, and these little things might show up. I mean, look, a bad snap killed them in the Kansas City game at the end. Who knows if they would have converted, but it gave them no shot there.
That certainly was a bad snap, but go ahead.
Regardless, little things, the bad punt, Jason Sanders miss, it wasn't like he shanked it. It was right to the left of the goalpost, and I think that's kind of I wonder if that's the thinking where it's like the mechanics of his misses. It's not like he's pushing them or pulling them so far. Like he's barely missing them. Not that matters. He still missed them. But I wonder if that plays into why they want to keep him around and the fact that they're paying him a lot of money.
Next on the stud list, Jalen Phillips. Honestly, the entire Dolphins defense could be listed in the stud section, but Phillips was the best in the front 7. He recorded 6 total tackles, 3 quarterback hits, 2 sacks, and an interception. The former Miami Hurricane is clearly gaining his confidence back as he has sacks in 4 straight games.
The sacks were great. The interception was all actually Christian Wilkins. That rush was amazing, and their game was a great scheme. There was a play at the start of the 4th quarter where a cornerback missed a tackle, and Jalen Phillips' big ass was back there 20 yards deep and pushed the receiver out of bounds. That blew my mind.
Him and Wilkins both.
That was a massive play, by the way. Genuinely a massive play. It was Xavier Howard who just happened to slip, and that's when they were driving to try to tie the game. He tracked him down 20 yards and pulled him down before he could get more yardage.
Yeah, Wilkins had a play like that too. I mean, this is exactly what the Dolphins envisioned when they put Bradley Chubb opposite Jalen Phillips. And I know through the first part of the season and even since Chubb came here last year.
You cannot complain about him anymore.
No.
He is worth the money.
But we were sitting here saying he's got this thing where he gets right just close enough to affect the play, but doesn't actually. Well, that's flipped on its head, and he's getting there, and he's making plays, and it's also those two complement each other so well, and they can rush from inside with Wilkins and Sealer. Yeah. This is exactly what they envisioned this defense looking like, and they're performing like it.
And I'm taking shots at JT. Jason Taylor wasn't great at playing the run. He is a Hall of Fame pass rusher, but like people would run at JT. If you run at Chubb or Phillips, they're going to knock your tackle into the backfield and grab the running back. Like Chubb was playing the hell out of the run. Jalen had 6 tackles. Like when you see DNs get sacks and then have 6, 7, 8 tackles, that means they're playing both aspects of the defense. And that is amazing to have 2 guys that can complement each other. And they have handshakes and they have dances together. They danced like 3 times or something. I'm like, y'all
Javon had a scoop and score, got called back.
I know. But, he was hot
for a moment.
Listen, I'll tell you, since really those first 2 drives against Carolina, this defense has really stepped up and played well. Even in that Philadelphia game we talked about.
I wonder what happened right before that Carolina game to make that team look so, I don't know, down.
I reinvigorated the defense.
Wonder what happened there.
Let's go Dolphins.
Back on the dud category, ball security. The Dolphins had opportunities to get the offense moving and find the end zone, but they turned the ball over 3 times. Tua lost a fumble on a scramble for a first down and threw an interception on the first play of the second half. Tight end Julian Hill, who's playing more because of Durham Smythe's injury, coughed up the ball on his lone target. Better teams will capitalize on those mistakes.
Fumble's a fumble. You know, guy hits you, big guy punched the ball out. That's just, it happens all the time. That interception was terrible.
Yeah, it was a bad interception.
He was wide open. He just threw a little bit further, you know, out there outside the hash, and it might have been a touchdown.
He's good for one of those. Again, I think we've talked about that. He's good for one bad interception, not a tipped ball, like just a bad interception every game.
McDaniel said afterwards that was, I guess, Tua thought Waddle was going to go over the defender, and he ended up going under the defender, and Tua didn't realize it too late. But that kind of feels like it happens a little too much for them. But again, like, that's splitting hairs with this offense. Like, it's so hard to, like, actually complain about what they're doing. Like, it's the best offense in 25 years this team has had.
Yeah. And actually, that was a great decision. Like you're saying, I don't know what the nuance of what happened.
To go there, yeah.
Right.
Yes. The throw was just not good.
Yeah, the throw wasn't good.
Final stud, Tyreek Hill. Despite leaving the game for a bit with a hand injury, Hill was dominant as usual. He ended the day with 10 receptions for 146 yards and a touchdown on a 38-yard catch and run. Hill now needs 778 yards to hit the 2,000-yard mark. He's also getting closer to breaking Dolphins records for receptions, yards, and touchdowns. He is everything that was advertised and more.
And it's funny because I remember all the talk when they acquired him. Oh, Tua won't be able to get him the ball. He can't throw it deep. Tyreek's too good for this. He's going to miss Mahomes so much. And, like, even the PTSD of growing up watching the Dolphins, like, how many of the David Bostons have we had? The Brandon Marshalls, who had an okay run, but, like, not what you expected when they brought him in. This is finally that alpha wide receiver, and it actually goes.
I remember saying on this show, we were like, what do you think? Game 3, he's complaining about no targets. Yeah. Like, we thought he was going to have maybe numbers like, who was that slot receiver that had
Jarvis Landry?
Jarvis Landry. Like, Jarvis Landry, 19 catches, 13 yards. Yeah. No, he's been, but we were talk about having Dolphins PTSD. We had Brian Flores PTSD about Tua. And then it was like, okay, you're going to bring in a great receiver for a quarterback that's no good. Like, we had all these narratives going. He has been everything. Like, it is really remarkable what he's done as a receiver.
Tyreek's amazing. No, he is. Tyreek is just awesome. His speed, his hands. He drops some balls. But no, he's one of the best receivers in the league. But when he went down, and then Jalen Waddle caught 3 balls in a row, he was playing Tyreek's position in the offense, which you got to give some credit to Mike McDaniel, where he schemes up this thing, and then Waddle goes back-to-back catches. Okay, go play Tyreek. What? He can go play Tyreek and still get 3 catches in a row?
They are obviously not as good without Tyreek Hill. However, they are still very good when he's not on the field.
I would imagine Jalen Waddle does that and says to himself, man, I'd be a number 1. I'd be catching 1,600 yards. Yep. Like, it's part of the offense, but Tyreek Hill has been just phenomenal. It is so fun. It's why I say, when you keep saying they're a run team, they're a run first team, I'm like, not so certain, man.
They need, I think Josh, on how he said it, they need to run to be successful as they can be. But to your point, like, nobody's talking about Raheem Mostert when the Dolphins come up. They're talking about Tyreek.
Right. And it's crazy because Mostert's having an unbelievable season.
He is.
He's great.
Yeah.
And Achane, I mean, obviously got injured yesterday, but I think he's going to be something special too.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see an offense yesterday that felt like it was clicking more like it was at the beginning of the season. Because that team, if the defense can do what it did yesterday and the offense can look the way that it looked at the beginning of the season, then you can start having the conversation about being an elite team.
Oh, yeah. And just knowing, it's funny, getting 1st and 20, my whole time being down, since 05 when I got drafted, 1st and 20 is a punt.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a punt on 4th and 16.
No, bro, I swear to goodness, it's 1st and 20. I'm like, yeah, so when they get this, how close is field goal range?
Right.
Like, I don't even, I think differently than I ever have about the Dolphin offense because of Mike McDaniel.